She helped the same man every night, until he said something that changed everything for 3 months. Maya had served the same man his black coffee at exactly 11:47 p.m. He never looked up, never said more than thank you. She'd memorized his order, his routine, even the way he tapped his phone twice before pocketing it. But tonight, as she slid the cup across the counter, his hand caught hers. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And I don't have much time." Maya's breath caught. His eyes, she'd never really seen them before, were filled with something she couldn't name. Fear, urgency, relief. "Every night you've helped me," he continued, glancing toward the dark windows. "You don't know it, but you've saved my life. And tonight I need to return the favor." He pressed something small and cold into her palm, a key. "When I leave, count to 60, then lock the front door and go to the back. Don't ask questions. Don't call anyone. And whatever you do, don't look outside when you hear the sirens." Maya stared at the brass key in her hand, its teeth worn smooth from years of use. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "What are you talking about? What sirens?" But he was already standing, pulling his coat tight around his shoulders. For the first time in 3 months, she noticed details she'd somehow missed. The slight tremor in his hands, the shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, the way his gaze swept the empty cafe like a soldier scanning for threats. "Please," he said, and the desperation in that single word froze her in place. "Trust me. I know how this sounds. I know you don't know me. But I know you, Maya. I know you work 2 jobs to pay for your sister's physical therapy. I know you're kind to everyone who walks through that door, even the drunk who knocked over the display last week. I know you deserve better than what's about to happen here. How do you—" Maya's voice cracked. "Who are you?" He smiled then, sad and fleeting. "Someone who made mistakes. Someone who's trying to fix them." He glanced at his watch. 45 seconds after I'm gone. Count them. Lock the door. Back room. Don't come out until morning. This is insane. I should call. No police. His voice turned sharp, urgent. "Maya, listen to me. The police can't help. Not tonight. That key opens a storage unit on Maple Street. Unit 247. If anything happens to me, everything you need is in there. Documents. Evidence. It'll keep you safe." "Safe from what?" He was already moving toward the door, his footsteps quick and purposeful. He paused at the threshold, one hand on the glass, and turned back. The streetlight caught his profile, and Maya saw it clearly now. The resignation of someone who'd already said goodbye to the world. "I'm sorry you got pulled into this," he said, "but you were the only light in 3 months of darkness. Thank you for that." Then he was gone, disappearing into the November night. Maya stood frozen behind the counter, the key biting into her clenched palm. The cafe's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, too normal for the surreal conversation that had just shattered her mundane evening. Through the window she watched his figure recede down the empty street, hands in pockets, shoulders hunched against the cold. 1, 2, 3. She started counting without meaning to, her mind working on autopilot while the rest of her tried to process what had just happened. Was this a joke? Some elaborate prank? But his eyes, those eyes had held no humor, only the weight of truth. 15, 16, 17. Her phone sat on the counter beside the register. She should call someone, her manager, the police, anyone. But his words echoed in her head. The police can't help. Not tonight. 30, 31, 32. Maya's hands shook as she untied her apron. This was crazy, absolutely insane. She didn't even know his name. For 3 months he'd been the 11:47 guy, just another face in the endless parade of late-night customers seeking caffeine and refuge from their own lives. 45, 46. She moved toward the door, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. Through the glass, the street lay empty and dark. The traffic light on the corner blinked yellow, casting strange shadows that seemed to move and breathe. Had that car been parked there before? The black sedan 2 doors down? 58, 59, 60. Maya flipped the lock with trembling fingers. The deadbolt sliding home sounded like a gunshot in the silence. She killed the front lights, plunging the cafe's window display into darkness. Only the security lights in the back remained, casting long shadows across the empty tables and chairs. She retreated behind the counter, past the espresso machine that had been her constant companion through countless lonely shifts, toward the storage room at the back. Her hand was on the doorknob when she heard it. Tires, moving fast. Too fast for the 25 miles per hour residential street. Maya's heart seized. against every instinct screaming at her to look, to understand, to know what was happening. She remembered his final warning. Whatever you do, don't look outside when you hear the sirens. She yanked open the storage room door and slipped inside, pulling it shut behind her just as the first set of headlights swept across the cafe's front windows. In the darkness of the cramped room, surrounded by boxes of coffee beans and cleaning supplies, Maya pressed her back against the wall and tried to slow her breathing. The sirens came 30 seconds later, not one, not two. What sounded like a dozen emergency vehicles converged on the street outside, their wailing filling the air with chaos and urgency. Red and blue lights strobed through the crack under the door, painting the storage room in alternating flashes of color. Maya's hand found her mouth, stifling the gasp that wanted to escape. Through the thin walls she heard voices, shouting. Authoritative, commanding someone to get down. Put their hands up. Don't move. The sharp crack of something that might have been a car door slamming or might have been something worse. Then cutting through it all, a voice over a megaphone. Lucas Chen, you are surrounded. This is your final warning. Lucas Chen. So that was his name. More shouting, running footsteps. Maya squeezed her eyes shut and wrapped her arms around herself, the key still clutched in her fist. What had she stumbled into? What had he done? The chaos outside lasted an eternity and no time at all. Maya tracked the minutes by her racing heartbeat, by the sweat cooling on her skin, by the way her legs began to ache from holding herself so rigidly still. Gradually the sirens faded, the shouting diminished, the lights stopped their manic dance. She waited in the darkness, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loudly, afraid that opening the door would somehow make her complicit in whatever had just transpired outside her small sanctuary of coffee and normalcy. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she nearly screamed. With shaking hands she pulled it out. The screen's glow seemed impossibly bright in the darkness. 3 texts from her sister. You okay? Saw something on the news about your street. Maya? Seriously starting to worry. Call me. Maya's thumbs hovered over the keyboard. What could she possibly say? That a stranger had given her a cryptic warning and a mysterious key? That she was hiding in a storage room while something terrible happened outside? That she might be a witness to what? She didn't even know. I'm fine. Phone died. Heading home soon. The lie came easily. Muscle memory from years of protecting her younger sister from harsh truths. Chloe had enough to worry about with her recovery. She didn't need this. Maya waited another hour before venturing out of the storage room. The cafe was exactly as she'd left it. 1 cup on the counter, steam long since dissipated, the register still open from when she'd been about to close out for the night. But through the front windows, the street had transformed. Yellow police tape stretched across the sidewalk. 2 patrol cars remained parked at odd angles, their lights dark but their presence unmistakable. A few bystanders lingered on the opposite corner, phones out, probably filming or texting or posting to social media about whatever they'd witnessed. And in the middle of the street, a dark stain on the asphalt that Maya forced herself not to examine too closely. Her hands moved on autopilot, finishing the closing routine she'd performed 1,000 times before, wiping down counters, emptying the register, checking that the back door was locked. Every movement felt mechanical, disconnected, as if someone else was controlling her body while her mind remained trapped in that storage room. She left through the back exit, locking it behind her, and took the long way to her car. The alley behind the cafe felt safer somehow, farther from the questions and cameras and the stain on the street that might be oil, or might be something else entirely. The key burned in her pocket during the drive home to her cramped apartment across town. Maya kept checking her rearview mirror, half expecting to see police lights, to be pulled over and questioned about what she knew. But the road stayed empty, and she made it home without incident. Inside her apartment, she finally allowed herself to fall apart. She sank onto her threadbare couch and let the trembling take over, her body processing what her mind still couldn't accept. Someone had died tonight. Maybe Lucas Chen. Maybe someone else. And somehow she'd been caught in the periphery of it. The key sat on her coffee table, innocuous and terrible. Unit 247 on Maple Street. Evidence, he'd said. Documents that would keep her safe. Safe from what? Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on her couch, lights on, curtains drawn, jumping at every sound from the hallway. At 3 a.m., she finally gave in and searched his name on her phone. The results were immediate and overwhelming. Lucas Chen wasn't just anyone. He was, or had been, a forensic accountant for the city, and according to the articles flooding her screen, he'd been missing for 3 months. 3 months. The same 3 months he'd been coming to her cafe every night at 11:47 p.m. Maya's blood ran cold as she scrolled through article after article. Lucas Chen, presumed dead after his car was found abandoned near the river. Lucas Chen, who'd been investigating financial irregularities in the city controller's office. Lucas Chen, whose testimony had been scheduled for a grand jury hearing that never happened because he'd vanished without a trace, until tonight. The latest article, posted just an hour ago, was still light on details. Missing city accountant found, officer-involved shooting under investigation. No mention of casualties. No confirmation of who survived. She set the phone down and stared at the key. What had Lucas uncovered? What was so dangerous that he'd had to disappear for 3 months, hiding in plain sight at a late-night cafe? And why had he chosen tonight to surface? The answer came to her slowly, puzzle pieces clicking into place. The grand jury. She pulled up the article again, scanning for dates. The original hearing had been scheduled for 3 months ago, right when Lucas disappeared. But there, buried in the text, was a reference to a rescheduled hearing, tomorrow, December 6th. Lucas had been waiting, building his case, gathering evidence, and tonight someone had found him before he could deliver it. Maya's hands clenched into fists. If Lucas was dead, that evidence died with him. Whatever corruption he'd uncovered, whoever he'd been running from, they'd won. Unless, everything you need is in there, it'll keep you safe. The key felt heavier now, weighted with responsibility and danger. If she went to that storage unit, she'd be stepping into something far beyond her understanding. But if she didn't, Lucas's 3 months of hiding, his sacrifice tonight, would be for nothing. She thought of him sitting at her counter night after night, nursing his black coffee, probably terrified that each evening might be his last. She thought of the sadness in his eyes when he'd thanked her for being a light in his darkness. She thought of the way he'd known about her sister, about her kindness, about her life. Because he'd been watching, yes, but also because maybe, in his isolation, those small interactions had meant something. Maya stood up, grabbed her jacket, and pocketed the key. The city was still dark, the streets still empty. If she was going to do this, it had to be now, before dawn, before anyone realized she might have something they wanted. The drive to Maple Street took 15 minutes. The storage facility sat on the edge of an industrial area, all corrugated metal and security lights. Maya pulled into the parking lot and cut her engine, scanning the rows of identical orange doors stretching into the darkness. Unit 247 was in the back corner, as far from the entrance as possible. Maya's footsteps echoed off the concrete as she approached, the key already in her hand. She glanced over her shoulder, no one, and slid the key into the padlock. It turned smoothly, and the lock fell open in her palm. Maya hesitated. This was her last chance to walk away, to pretend tonight had never happened, to go back to her simple life of late shifts and coffee stains and helping her sister recover. But then she thought of Lucas's eyes, of the truth he'd been desperate to protect, and she rolled up the metal door. Inside, the unit was smaller than she'd expected, maybe 6 by 8 feet. A single filing cabinet stood against the back wall. A laptop sat on top of it, closed, and taped to the cabinet's front was an envelope with her name written on it in careful handwriting. Maya's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter, several pages long, and a USB drive. Dear Maya, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or in custody. Either way, I need your help. I'm sorry to drag you into this. You didn't ask for any of it. But in 3 months of running, of looking over my shoulder, of trusting no one, you were the only person who showed me simple human kindness. That matters more than you know. The USB drive contains copies of everything I found. Bank records, emails, recorded conversations, evidence of a embezzlement scheme that goes higher than I initially thought. The city controller's office has been funneling millions from infrastructure budgets into offshore accounts. But it's not just corruption, it's dangerous. People have died to keep this secret. I know because I nearly became one of them. The laptop has my full testimony, everything I was supposed to present to the grand jury. It's password protected, your sister's birthday, month and day, 4 digits. I'm sorry. I needed something you'd remember but wouldn't be obvious to anyone else. I noticed the card you kept pinned behind the register. You need to get this to someone you trust. Not the police, some of them are involved. Not the DA's office, compromised. There's a federal investigator named Sarah Martinez. Her card is in the filing cabinet, top drawer. She's been trying to build a case for months but hasn't had enough evidence. Until now. I know you're scared. I know this is too much to ask. But you asked me who I was, and the truth is, I was someone who looked the other way once. I saw something wrong and convinced myself it wasn't my problem. That decision got my partner killed. I won't let that happen again. You have a choice. You can turn this over and let justice run its course, or you can destroy everything and walk away. Either way, I understand. You've already helped me more than you know. Thank you for the coffee. Thank you for the kindness. Thank you for making me feel human again, even if it was just for a few minutes each night. Lucas Maya read the letter 3 times, each pass making her hands shake harder. She looked at the filing cabinet, at the laptop, at the USB drive in her palm. This was evidence of murder, corruption, conspiracy. This was dangerous. This was also right. She thought of her sister, of the physical therapy sessions they could barely afford, of the system that should help people but so often failed them. She thought of Lucas, who'd spent 3 months in hiding trying to do the right thing. She thought of his partner, who'd died because someone decided money mattered more than lives. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Maya powered up the laptop, entered Chloe's birthday, 0823, and watched as the screen unlocked. Folders upon folders of documents appeared, meticulously organized by date and transaction. She plugged in the USB drive and copied everything, then tucked it safely in her jacket pocket. In the filing cabinet's top drawer, she found exactly what Lucas had promised, a business card for FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez, Federal Corruption Unit. Maya photographed it with her phone. Then she systematically packed everything else into her car, the laptop, the files, every shred of evidence Lucas had died protecting. The storage unit looked empty when she finished, just 4 metal walls and fluorescent lighting. She locked the door behind her and threw the padlock into a dumpster 3 blocks away. By the time Maya got home, the sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that felt too beautiful for such a dark night. She sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by evidence of crimes she barely understood, and dialed the number on Sarah Martinez's card. The phone rang twice before a professional voice answered. Martinez. Maya took a deep breath. My name is Maya Torres. I have information about Lucas Chen, and I think you're going to want to see what he left behind. There was a pause. Then, where are you? Home. But I need guarantees, protection, for me and my sister. I need to know we'll be safe. Ms. Torres, I'm going to need you to tell me exactly what you have. Maya looked at the laptop, at the files spread across her table, at the reflection of herself in her darkened TV screen. Just a barista who'd shown up for her shift and ended up holding the key to taking down a corrupt government. She looked tired, she looked scared. But she also looked determined. Everything, Maya said. I have everything.